Okay, hello guys. Welcome to the second episode of my introduction to Windows Server. In the previous episode, we installed and promoted a server. And in this episode, I kind of want to go over the Active Directory a little bit. It's not going to be too in-depth because it's not much to say. I feel like it's pretty straightforward. But I'm going to try and go over the basics that we kind of need to understand, right? So the Active Directory is kind of the main reason why people use Windows Server. Um, it's pretty special. We can actually compare it to the File Explorer, right? The Active Directory allows us to organize. Well, it could be, departments of a company or organizations itself within a network. Um, there's a couple ways to access this Active Directory, right? We can simply go to our tools at the top and go down to our Active Directory users and computers. If we click on this, here we go. We have what we created the last time, which was a forest. This is the forest that we created, and if we open it up, it's kind of like a tree, right? We have our branches, and within these branches, we have other. So in this case, we have groups, right? These groups come built in, as it states here, and we can see something familiar here, right? So we have the administrators group, right? These groups we can specify what permissions each group has. We can also create users, and again, we can specify their properties, right? So we can decide what groups they're in. We can reset their passwords. We can do a whole bunch of things. And there's something called organizational units. Now, these organizational units, they can be compared to folders, like you would have in a file explorer, right? We can put things within those folders, and we can organize everything as a whole. So in this episode, I kind of want to go over how can we create, let's say different departments of a company, and how could we add workers, right? We can have employees, right? So let's create an accounting department. So these folders, such as the domain controllers one, this is called an organizational unit. And to create a new organizational unit, we can click on my domain. We can simply go up here where it says create a new organizational unit, or we can go to the action, right? Click new, and we could go to organizational unit. Either way is perfectly fine. Let's create a new one. Now, this seems pretty straightforward, but this could actually prove to be a problem in the end. And what I'm speaking on is this protect container from accidental deletion, right? This prevents, well, as it says, the folder or the container from being deleted. In the future, which I will go over towards the middle or later end of this episode, I'll show you how we could work around this to actually delete an organizational unit just in case we actually need to. What if we created one by accident? We need to delete it. Well, there is a way to do so. But let's create an accounting group or an accounting organizational unit. Name it accounting. We can hit OK. Now we have our accounting OU. And we can tell it's an OU by this little symbol that you see here. That just is the symbol that they use to display an organizational unit. Now, let's say we want to create a new worker. We can simply go to action new here, and we can create user, or we can go up here and create a new user right here. This toolbar is actually quite handy, so that we don't have to continually go up here. Now, there are some keyboard shortcuts, right? This does pay attention to your keyboard. So if I hit M, it should, in theory, here we go. There you go. It works. So if I hit B, it should go to built-in. C should go to computers, so on and so forth. Let's go to our accounting folder. Let's go to create a new user. Now we could name this user anything, right? We could call him James Carter. And here is where we specify the logon name. So when we sign into our server, we know that our username is administrator, right? But sometimes we want to specify, a certain style that we want to go with for the organization. So I don't know. In this case, we can go with the first initial of the initial of the first name, and then we could go last name, Carter. We can continue, hit next. Now here we can implement a password. Now by default, you do have to implement a complex password. It will not accept anything simple. So if I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we can uncheck that, it will not allow us to, because it does not meet the password policy requirements. In the next episode, we'll go over these requirements and the password policy and see how we can change that. But right now, let's go back. You can put whatever password you want. And we can keep this as is. We don't want the user to change the password at the next login because we just gave them one. Here we go. And finish. Now we have a user. Now we can specify a lot more information for this user. We can, if we go to the properties tab, we can add a description for them. We can add the office they work in, their telephone, email, web page. If we go to the address, well, it's quite straightforward, their address. And now this is a very important tab, the account tab. In the account tab, we can specify a whole bunch of things, right? We can actually specify what times they're allowed to log on. We can specify the specific computers that they can log on to. We can unlock their account should their account be locked. We can specify that they should change their password at the next logon, and a whole bunch of other things. We can actually disable their account as well. And we can set a time for their account to expire. And we can change their username and so on and so forth. This is actually very powerful. And sometimes actually when you're creating multiple users, it could become, tiresome to repeat, creating the same user over and over again, especially if they have the same settings. Well, again, in the later episode, we're going to go over creating template users, which allow us to copy their settings so that when we create a new user, those settings stick by. So I don't know, let's do something here. Let's say that this worker here cannot log on the weekends. So if I can hold down and drag, select all of Sunday, and I can say, you know what, you cannot log in on Sunday. And you know what, let's say Saturday as well, right, the weekend. Here we go. Then hit OK. Now this user is not allowed to log in on the weekends. And actually you will see that if you have a workstation set up, you won't be able to log in on the weekend. It will give you an error. Okay. We can also create groups. Let's say I want to create the accounting group. Okay, we can call it accounting. Now we can also specify permissions for this group as well. We can say this is a global group. Here we go. And there we go. We have the accounting group. Now you can specify permissions for all the groups, but if you open up our properties here, we can actually see the members within them. What is the group a member of? And who is the group managed by? For example, if I want to add James Carter to the group, we can simply right-click him and add him to a group. Now, in this case, we do know the name of the group. We can just simply type in accounting. If I hit check names, the accounting group, usually know when it's correct if you get an underline under it. If we hit OK, there we go. The add to the group operation was successfully completed. This is just one way of organizing the Active Directory. The Active Directory does have a lot more functions, and in the future when we try and create a bigger network, you'll see how expansive this does become. And keeping it organized like this becomes essential, especially when you have thousands of users on a network. The Active Directory does an amazing job of keeping things organized. Okay, so we created all of this, but what if we want to get rid of it, right? Okay, well we can simply just go to the accounting, right click, and then we can hit delete. It'll ask us, do we want to delete the organizational unit named accounting? If we hit yes, we do get an error. The error states, you do not have sufficient privileges to delete accounting, or this object is protected from accidental deletion. Well, if we remember, when we created the accounting organizational unit, we made sure that it was still checked off a little box that stated protected from accidental deletion. What we can do is see, let's check its properties actually first. Well, we see that in its properties we have general, managed by, and com plus, right? But nothing here talks about its protection. But now let's do something. Let's go to view, and let's go to advanced features. Now actually, you'll notice a big change here. If you looked within the forest, you'll see a whole bunch of new tabs that opened up, a whole bunch of folders with a whole bunch more information that we didn't see before. Now let's go back to our accounting organizational unit. Let's right click it and let's go look at its properties again. Well, now we see that we have a lot more. We still have general and managed by, but now we have object, security, and the attribute editor. Now let's go back to the object tab. If we look towards the bottom, we see the check mark that we had before, the protect object from accidental deletion. What we can simply do is uncheck that and hit apply. Now, if we go back and we try to right click and delete it again, it's going to give us the same warning as before. Are you sure you want to delete this? We can simply hit yes. Now we're going to have the second warning. This one says the confirm subtree deletion. Well, we can use the use delete subtree control server or server control, which simply means it's going to delete everything within it, even if it has protection on it or not. We can simply hit yes, and we've successfully deleted a protected OU. But now, what if we deleted it, but we didn't want to delete it, and we went through all of this? Well, there's something called the recycling bin, and that's where we're going to head to next. Okay, so we deleted the accounting organizational unit, and we kind of need to get it back. Well, in this case, we can't. But there is a way to prevent it from happening in the future where we'll be able to recover deleted objects. What we can simply do is exit the Active Directory users and computers, and let's go to our tools menu at the top and open up the Administrative Center. Now the Administrative Center should look a little bit familiar. If we go to our domain or my domain here, we'll see something very similar to the Active Directory users and computers tool that we were in before. But if we look closely, there's nothing here that talks about deleted objects. But what we can do now is enable the recycling bin. If we right click my domain local here, we can enable recycling bin. Now this is a big step here. We can enable it, but once we do it, we cannot revert back. You enable it once and it stays there forever. You cannot delete it or anything like that. If we hit enable recycling bin, it says, are you sure you want to perform this action? Once recycling bin has been enabled, it cannot be disabled. We can hit OK. Now it tells us to refresh the administrative center right now. We can simply hit the refresh button at the top. And now we have a new container called the deleted objects. If we open it up, there's nothing in there now. But now let's go back to our Active Directory users and computers and see what happens. Let's say, go here, and let's create a new organizational unit. Could be anything. Can simply drop this down. We can go to Action, New. Let's create a new OU. Right here. Let's name it Test. And we can uncheck this. Well, let's say I went through all the steps and I deleted this. But now I want to get it back. Okay, well let's go back to our tools, Administrative Center. And now we should go to our deleted objects. In our deleted objects, here we go. We see our test organizational unit. Now, let's see what we can do with this. It says right here on the right that we can restore it, which restore simply means it'll restore it back to the location where it was deleted at. So it'll bring it back to within that forest. There's also the restore to. Restore to actually allows us to specify where exactly within the forest do we want to restore this file or this OU to. So we can simply hit restore. and we can get out of this. If we go back to our Active Directory, users and computers, and bring down this, we can see that test is right back where it's supposed to be. Just want to thank you guys for watching this episode. I know it was quite brief, but I wanted to keep it as is. I didn't want to go into too much detail about the Active Directory, but I still wanted to show you enough that you kind of have a general understanding of how it works. In the next episode, I want to go over the password and lookout policy. And again, I don't want to go into so much detail. I kind of want to leave an advanced tutorial for later on, which I will make, and which would cover a lot more, and I'll make longer episodes to really get down into the nitty-gritty of what everything does. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I'll show you guys in the next episode the password lookout policy. So I'll see you guys then.